Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to this class today in the fluid mechanics course. Today's lecture is going to be on properties of fluid. So in this lecture, we will be mostly looking at various applications of the fluid mechanics concepts. You should be able to also differentiate between solid and fluid. You can understand various important properties of fluid. You can know the types of fluids, types of flow, and you should be in a position to analyze the nature of the fluid flow. So now when we look at the applications, there are a number of applications starting from civil engineering to all other engineering subjects. If you look at civil engineering, we have many applications. You talk about dams, bridges and the rivers. You may talk about the water supply to the buildings or the water supply from reservoir to industry. You may have a lot of other applications that are related to irrigation and so on. So there are number of applications similarly in mechanical engineering. There are applications in aerospace engineering such as movement of flights. There are propulsion of rockets or spacecrafts. You have again number of applications in chemistry or chemical engineering where you have a lot of liquids and applications. You have biomedical engineering applications, something like blood flow in the body or in the heart. You can also have the lungs operating, how it is operating under the breathing exercises. And you have material sciences where you have a lot of materials, how they are melted and how it changes its properties and flow and so on. There are a number of applications in ocean engineering. As you can see that the waves are hitting the coast, there are a number of problems that we are facing due to the wave hitting the coast due to erosion and so on. We have ports, harbors, all that operations. We need to analyze the structures, what is the force coming due to these waves. We have submarines, which are now very, very important in case of defense applications and design of the submarines. How much is the pressure, how it has to move, what will be the condition inside. So we need to understand the basic fluid mechanics concepts to analyze and apply all these things. And we also have climate science where we have ocean, atmosphere, and the total global dynamics that needs to be understood only if we know the basic concepts of fluid mechanics. So there are numerous applications. Whatever you may do tomorrow, you need to understand the basic concepts today. So before we start, let us start to understand from the basic. You know that any object or any material can have three states. You can have a solid state, you can have a liquid state, you may be in a gaseous state. So when it is in solid state, you can see here that the solid object is going to hold its own shape and it will have its own volume, or it has a fixed volume. Whereas in case of liquid, it is going to occupy the shape of the container and it will have the same fixed volume. Volume is not going to change, but there will be a free surface on the top, which is basically the interface between the liquid and the air. Now, in this case, we are talking about liquid. And now when we come to gas, gas will always occupy the shape of the container. So you may have less air or less gas inside some chamber or more gas. It is going to take or occupy the whole container and the volume is going to be same as the container's volume. So these are the three properties that we have, or three states that we have seen. Now, if we classify solid and fluid, liquid and gas both come under fluid. So we have two categories, one is solid, one is fluid. Now, if we look at the technical definition of solid and fluid and differentiate these two, in general, you can say that solid suffers a finite angular deformation. Now, if you have a solid which is shown by this block, and this solid block will have a finite deformation in proportion to the applied intensity of shear stress. So the force that is acting here will generate some kind of stress or some amount of stress that is going to act tangentially to this surface, and we call it the shear stress acting on the surface. So this stress, shear stress, is going to generate some amount of finite angular deformation based on a specific amount of force. Now this has a linear relation. So if you see, for linear elastic solid, stress is proportional to the angular strain, which is governed by Hooke's law of elasticity. Now if you see, we have the tau, which is nothing but your stress, and epsilon is the strain. So it is related with this parameter, which is called Young's modulus or modulus of elasticity, E. So E is given as Young's modulus. Now tau is equals to E multiplied by epsilon, that is strain, and tau is the stress, which is nothing but force per area. Now if we want to understand how fluid is different than solid, let us look at that. In case of fluid, you may apply any small amount of force, but still the fluid will start deforming. So the solid will be able to resist the force to a certain extent, and only then it will deform, and there is a finite angular deformation which is going to happen. But in case of fluid, this deformation starts from the very beginning from some small amount of force, and it will continue to deform till the force is applied and there is a stress applied on this surface. So here you have two surfaces. One is the bottom, which is, let us say, considered as static with respect to the top surface or top plate. And if this is being pulled, the fluid in between is going to deform, and there is a gradual deformation with the force. So this stress, the strain, the deformation is related to stress, but not directly. So in this case, the stress is related. In case of fluid, the stress is related to the rate of strain. So that rate of strain is given in terms of du by dy. So the equation that we can write is tau equals to mu du by dy. This equation is given by Newton. So Newton's law of viscosity, we always tell that. And any fluid that satisfies this law is called Newtonian fluid. So we'll see that in a later slide. But now you should understand that the strain rate is related to shear stress in case of fluid, whereas strain is directly related to stress in case of solid. All right. Now let us look at various classifications or branches in fluid mechanics. So already I have defined what is a fluid. A fluid is a substance that deforms continuously under the application of shear stress or tangential stress, no matter how small the shear stress may be. So now in fluid mechanics, we have three branches or three subclasses. The first one is fluid statics, and next is fluid kinematics, then fluid dynamics. So when the fluid is at rest, there is no motion, nothing, the fluid is just at rest, we call that as fluid statics. So we need to understand when the fluid is at rest, how the pressure is varying, how the force is varying. So these things will be covered under fluid statics. Now, fluid kinematics, we understand the fluid motion, but without considering the forces and energy. So fluid kinematics deals with the velocities, streamlines, without considering the forces or energy. Whereas in fluid dynamics, we deal with the fluid motion and analyze the velocities and accelerations, and we consider the forces exerted by the fluid or upon the fluid when it is in motion. So fluid statics, kinematics, and dynamics are three different classifications that we will go through in this course. However, in this lecture, we are looking at various properties. Now, when we talk about fluid analysis or mechanics, we also need to understand the dimensions and its units. As you can see that we have various dimensions, and the primary fundamental dimensions are mass, length, time, and temperature. So that is used as SI unit, which usually we adopt. And there are other unit systems where force, length, time, and temperature is considered, or force, mass, length, time, and temperature is considered. But in our case, in India, we usually consider SI unit system for analysis. And in SI unit system, your mass is given in kg, length is given in meter, and force is defined in newtons. And if you look at the mass density rho is given as kg per meter cube, and the specific weight of fluid is given as rho g, that is density multiplied by the gravity. And sometimes the weight is also given in terms of kg. So it is always preferable that you convert this weight to force, because weight is nothing but a force, so that you convert it to newtons by multiplying g. Okay, that will be convenient, and you will not do any mistake when you are taking mass and weight at the same time. Now, there has to be also dimensional homogeneity in any equation that we consider. In an equation, there might be number of terms in the left hand side, there might be number of terms in the right hand side. So both left hand side and right hand side have to have same unit, and at the same time each term in the equation should also have same unit. So that needs to be ensured, and sometimes if you check that, you may find the errors that you might have done, and you can try to minimize the errors by checking the dimensional homogeneity, which is equally important and it helps. Now let us come to the important properties. The first one is density of the fluid. So density is defined as mass per unit volume, and it is denoted with a symbol rho. Rho is equals to m by v, mass per unit volume, and the unit of density is given as kg per meter cube. So for liquids, the variation of density with pressure is negligible. Under high pressure, still the density might still remain same, but if the temperature is going to change, the density could really change. So in case of water, the density of water at 20 degrees centigrade under 1 atmospheric pressure or normal atmospheric pressure is given as 998 kg per meter cube, which is almost equal to 1000 kg per meter cube. And in practice, we mostly use 1000 kg per meter cube, which is equivalent to 1 gram per centimeter cube. Now the density of air is 1.25 kg per meter cube, where you can see clearly that density of water is almost 800 times higher than the density of air. Okay, and specific volume is nothing but the volume occupied by unit mass of fluid. So specific volume is 1 by rho. Using this density, we can also define the specific gravity. Okay, so the relative density or specific gravity is defined as the ratio of the density of a substance to the density of water at 4 degrees centigrade. So at a particular temperature, if we take rho L, that is the density of liquid, to rho W, density of water, then we'll be able to find out what is the specific gravity. The specific gravity of mercury is typically given as 13.6. So mercury is 13.6 times denser than water. So the weight of unit volume of substance is known as specific weight. Now, how do we calculate the weight? Weight is nothing but your density multiplied by gravity. So if we take specific weight as gamma, noted as small gamma, then we can write it gamma equals to rho g. And the unit of this specific gravity is given, specific weight is given in this units, that is Newton per meter cube, dynes per centimeter cube. And the specific weight of water is 9810 Newton per meter cube. You can clearly calculate that. Rho is, let us say, 1000 and g is 9.81. So this gives rise to 9810 Newton per meter cube. Now let us look at the next property, that is viscosity. This is very, very important property, and it has a lot of applications. When the fluid elements move relative to a solid or each other, there is going to be some internal resistance to the motion that will be developed at the interface. And by the property by virtue of which this resistance occurs is known as viscosity. So if you, let us say, take a little bit of oil and try to rub it within your finger, you will find a different resistance compared to the water, if you take water and try to rub. So this resistance what you feel is nothing but the viscosity. And sometimes the random movement of molecules and the bonding force existing between the molecules are also responsible for offering the resistance to the relative motion of fluid layers. So there might be a fluid which is moving completely on the bed, and different layers, there will be some resistance in that, and this resistance could also depend on the random movement of molecules. If there is a lot of turbulence or a lot of disturbance, there could be high random movements and there could be higher resistance. So the Newton's law of viscosity is given as tau equals to mu into du by dy, which I have already explained in the previous slide. Now this helps to define the units and dimensions of viscosity mu. Now if we take mu and calculate that tau divided by du by dy, we'll be able to find out what is the unit. We'll see in the next slide. Now this mu or the viscosity is called as molecular viscosity or dynamic viscosity. Why we call it dynamic viscosity? If you look at the unit, mu is given in Newton second per meter square. You can calculate by this expression tau divided by du by dy, where tau is Newton per meter square, du by dy will give you 1 by second. So altogether you get this expression for unit, that is Newton second per meter square. Now because in this unit system your Newton is present, which is a unit for the force, this viscosity is called dynamic viscosity. And usually this unit is quite large and we need a smaller unit system. So that's why dyne second per centimeter square is the commonly used unit, and that is called as poise. So 1 poise is 1 dyne second per centimeter square, which is often used in practice. And at 20 degrees centigrade, the viscosity of water is 1 centipoise. Okay. So the dynamic viscosity of liquid decreases, and for gas it increases with rise in temperature, that you can see in this plot. So if the temperature is going to rise, the dynamic viscosity of liquids will decrease, whereas dynamic viscosity of gas will increase. Anyway, this I will not go in details, but just for your understanding, you can know that. Now let us look at the same viscosity in a different form. If we take the ratio of dynamic viscosity and the density of fluid, then we can define the kinematic viscosity. So nu is the kinematic viscosity, that is defined as mu divided by rho. So the unit for that, if you derive, you will get it as meter square per second. And again, this is a higher unit, so we usually prefer to have a smaller unit. So that is centimeter square per second, and we define that with Stokes. So 1 Stokes is equals to 1 centimeter square per second. And this nu is given in centistokes. And if it is given in centistokes, you should multiply with 10 to the power 6 to get the values in meter square per second, because you need to maintain the dimensional homogeneity. All right. Okay. Now we can classify different fluids and specify what is their type based on the viscosity, or based on the behavior of the fluid and how the viscosity of the fluid changes with different force or stress conditions, and how the rate of strain is going to vary. So if you look at this plot, you have this plot on one axis, you have the shear stress, that is y-axis, and the rate of strain or the deformation is given in x-axis, du by dy. So the fluid can be classified based on the shear stress and rate of deformation with a plot known as rheological diagram. The plot that you see here is nothing but your rheological diagram. And we have Newtonian fluid that is governed by this equation, tau is equals to mu du by dy. If we see, it is a complete direct relation with rate of strain to stress, and that is linked with mu. So now if we plot this, we'll get this blue line, which is nothing but for Newtonian fluid. So in case of Newtonian fluid, you will get the deformation starting from 0, and it will keep on deforming as long as there is a force acting on that. Okay. And typical example of Newtonian fluids are air, water, milk, and so on. So mostly you see in your daily life many of the Newtonian fluids. Whereas if you see, there are other properties there is something called Bingham plastic. You can see this red line here. This is Bingham plastic. It can resist the shear stress up to a limiting value. So if you keep on applying the shear stress or increase the shear stress, it will still not deform up to certain value. Then suddenly it will start deforming, and then it will keep increasing, and it will behave like a Newtonian fluid. Okay. So this kind of behavior or this kind of fluids are called Bingham plastic, and typical examples are toothpaste, ketchup. You can see this kind of behaviors. Then there is something called dilatant. It is easier to remember as shear thickening fluids become this becomes more viscous as the rate of deformation increases. So something like suspended starch solutions or corn starch, let us say, if you take if you apply the force, as you start applying the force, more force, and you try to deform more, you will see that the viscosity is going to increase more. So that kind of fluid is called dilatant or shear thickening fluid. And there is next category, which is shear thinning fluid, which is just the opposite. If you deform more, you will get less viscosity, or you will feel less viscosity, and you will need to apply less force. Something like paints or polymers. If you move your brush slowly, you will have to give more force rather than if you move it very fast. So it will really move smoother. Okay. So this is called pseudoplastic or shear thinning fluids. Now let us look at a typical example for the viscosity. A cylinder is shown here. You can see here the inner rectangle is the cylinder, which weighs 60 Newton, and that slides in a lubricated tube. So the outer line which is shown is a lubricated tube which is static, and this cylinder is sliding down inside that. All the dimensions are given, and the clearance between the cylinder and the pipe is 0.005 mm. So you can see this gap in between the cylinder and the tube. So this gap is nothing but 0.005 mm. Now there are two parts to the question. First question is, the cylinder is observed to fall at a uniform speed of 0.5 meter per second. Find out the viscosity of the oil. Okay, so this cylinder is falling at a velocity of 0.5 meter per second, and this velocity is constant. So once it is said it is constant, obviously the acceleration is 0. Now if the cylinder decelerates at a rate of 0.1 meter per second square, when the speed is 0.5 meter per second, what is the viscosity of oil? So now two conditions: one is constant speed with acceleration 0, another one, the speed is there but it starts decelerating at this rate, and then what is the viscosity of the oil. Now let us look at what are the things that are given. We have been given the weight of the cylinder. We know the clearance between these two pipes, two surfaces, that is pipe and the cylinder. There is a deceleration or acceleration negative, that is minus 0.1 meter per second square. Then the velocity, change in the velocity is given as 0.5 meter per second. Why it is required? Because we need to find out the shear that is acting between the surface. So when you want to find out the value of tau or shear, you need mu du by dy. What is du? Is the change in velocity. What is the change? It is the change between, or change in the velocity between this surface, which is the surface of the cylinder, and surface of this tube. So assuming the tube is static, this is 0 and this velocity is 0.5. So the change in velocity is du is 0.5 meter per second. Similarly, you have du by dy. So dy is nothing but the gap in between, and that is already given to you. So now if we want to calculate, we have to calculate the shear force acting, and once we calculate the force, that is shear force acting in the opposite direction, that is actually balancing, or that is opposing or resisting the weight of this falling cylinder, we can equate both of these and find out the value of mu. So now let us look at that. The first case says there is a uniform speed where the acceleration is 0, and we will apply our basic fundamental principle of law of motion. So summation of forces equals to mass into acceleration. So in any direction, now if we look at the vertical direction, So forces acting are force minus W. So force is the resistance force acting upwards. W is the downward force, that is the weight, and that is equated to mass into acceleration. Now in the first case, we know that acceleration is already 0. So force is equals to W. Now if I write it down, then the force should be written as stress multiplied by area. So in this case, the shear stress is acting along this surface, and area is the area of the cylinder, or the area that is with interface area of the cylinder with the tube, and that is nothing but pi dl. So pi d is your circumference multiplied by the length, that will give you the area that is in contact with the tube. So this I have to put it here. Now if I put it here, you can substitute all the values. F equals to 60 is equals to mu multiplied by du by dy. Please note it that 0.005 mm, so you have to convert that to meter, multiplied by pi 0.15. It is given as 15 centimeter, and if you take that, it is 0.15 meter. Then similarly the length is 0.12. So if you substitute all these values, you will get this expression. The force is equals to mu into 1800 pi. That if you equate it to 60, you will be able to find out the value mu is equals to 0.0106 Newton second per meter square. And if you convert this value to poise, you can multiply with 10, and you will be able to find out the dimensions of poise, and that is equals to 0.106 poise. Okay, so we found out the value of mu for the first scenario. Now similarly, if you want to find out the value of mu for the second scenario, when this is decelerating at a rate of 0.1 meter per second, or a equals to minus 0.1 meter per second square, you can write down the same equation again. W minus F is equals to W by G multiplied by A. See, please note that there is a sign convention that has been changed here. You can consider downward positive or upward positive, doesn't matter, but you have to be consistent. Now if I have considered downward positive, my W becomes positive, resistance force upward is negative, then W by G, then A, that is the deceleration. I am considering downward as positive. If it would have been positive acceleration positive, then downward positive. If it is decelerating, then negative. So I have used negative. So by using this, I have substituted the force here and all the values you see to get the mass, 60 by 9.81, and through this we can find out the value mu equals to 0.107 poise. So a small difference in the problem can lead to a different value, and using this kind of principles we can find out the forces or shear stress or shear force that is acting between the cylinder and the tube or the shaft, so that we can find out how much force is required, how much torque is required, and there will be a lot of applications of these concepts in various industrial applications. Something like you have a ball bearing system, there is a friction which is going to be generated. You can calculate for a particular kind of fluid what will be the friction or force or resistance that will be generated. All right,